A port reduced to rubble in seconds. A city turned into ruins in an instant. These accidental explosions with power, comparable to nuclear weapons, shock us as we watch through the lens. Today, Guidepedia will guide you through the most powerful explosion accidents in the world. Note that some footage contains catastrophic scenes, so those with a sensitive disposition should prepare themselves mentally. Click subscribe, and let's explore this together. Beirut explosion disaster. This was a massive explosion that shocked the world. The tremendous power of the blast reduced an entire city to ruins in an instant. 220 people lost their lives, and more than 300,000 people were left homeless. The economic damage amounted to $15 billion. This was the catastrophic explosion that occurred in the port area of Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. On the afternoon of August 4th, 2020, the city should have been welcoming the sunset and nightfall as usual. However, at 5:54 p.m., a photo of smoke rising from somewhere in the city appeared on Twitter. People familiar with the area identified it as a warehouse near the Beirut port. In less than 4 minutes, the smoke grew thicker, changing from yellow to black. At 6:07 p.m., a small explosion occurred at the warehouse. People nearby heard the unusual noise and took out their phones to record. But before they could react, a deafening blast plunged the entire city into panic. A tourist fishing at a nearby beach first captured a reddish-brown mushroom cloud exploding in the air, and the next second he was thrown into the sea by the enormous energy. Buildings within a radius of 328 feet, 100 meters, of the port were leveled in 1 second. Buildings within 1,640 feet, 500 meters, were completely blown through. A man filming from his balcony suffered permanent facial injuries. Several miles away, a couple was taking wedding photos on the street. One moment, they were capturing their beautiful moment. The next, they were swept up by the shock wave. Instantly, the entire street descended into chaos. Even Building 6, 2 miles, 10 kilometers, away couldn't escape damage, not to mention the firefighters rushing to the scene. Data collected by the U.S. Geological Survey showed that the seismic waves generated by the explosion were equivalent to a magnitude 3 earthquake, though the actual power was greater than a 3 earthquake. Nearby residents described the explosion as being like an atomic bomb. After the incident, rumors spread, and there were even conspiracy theories. The final investigation revealed serious negligence in the management of Warehouse 12 at the Beirut port. Not only did it contain 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate that exploded, but also large quantities of fireworks and tires. According to British standards, a maximum of 300 tons of ammonium nitrate should be stored in such a facility, with a spacing of 1 meter between stacks. Australian regulations require ammonium nitrate to be stored at least 0.93 miles 5 kilometers away from residential areas. If the relevant personnel had handled the situation correctly, this disaster might have been avoided. RAF fault explosion in Britain. The RAF fault explosion was a military accident which occurred at 11:11 a.m. on Monday, November 27, 1944, the RAF fault underground munitions storage depot in Staffordshire, England. It was one of the largest non-nuclear explosions in history and the largest on UK soil. Between 3,500 and 4,000 tons, 3,900 and 4,400 tons of ordnance exploded, mostly high explosives. The explosion crater has a depth of 100 feet, 30 meters, and a maximum width of 1,007 feet, 307 meters, although different sources have exaggerated this size. A nearby reservoir containing 450,000 cubic meters, 16 million cubic feet, of water was obliterated in the incident, along with several buildings including a complete farm. Flooding caused by the destruction of the reservoir added to the damage caused by the explosion. On the morning of April 16, 1947, a tremendous explosion awakened the still drowsy residents of Texas City. Immediately after, towering flames shot up into the clouds. The thick orange smoke rising from the port stung people's eyes. At the same time, 2 passing aircraft were struck down by the enormous force. Waters within 100 miles were churning violently. Tsunami waves as high as 15 feet crashed mercilessly onto the land. Even in residential areas 25 miles away, windows were shattered to pieces. People instantly fell into panic. This was the most severe explosion disaster in American industrial history and the largest non-nuclear explosion in human history. The devastating losses were unimaginable. According to reports, the accident was caused by a cargo ship docked at Texas City that caught fire unexpectedly, instantly detonating 5,070 pounds of ammonium nitrate on board. What was even more unpredictable was that the explosion triggered a chain reaction, igniting nearby oil depots and chemical plants. In an instant, the entire city was shrouded in death. When the fire was finally extinguished and the tsunami subsided, the scene was a complete mess, particularly heart-wrenching. Only one firefighter from Texas City survived, making this tragic incident one of the disasters with the highest number of firefighter casualties in American history. Toulouse chemical factory explosion in France. In September 2001, the AZF chemical plant in Toulouse, an industrial city in southern France, experienced a powerful explosion. The blast created a crater more than 160 feet wide and 50 feet deep at the factory. 2 factory buildings were completely leveled. The accident was extremely devastating. According to reports, this severe incident occurred when sodium dichlorosylurate mixed with carelessly placed ammonium nitrate, triggering a massive explosion of 660,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate. The AZF chemical plant and its parent company, global chemical giant Total, were subsequently involved in a lawsuit that lasted 11 years. Eventually, they paid compensation amounting to $2.3 billion for the casualties and property damage caused by the accident. The plant's money manager was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and received a sentence of 3 years in prison, with 2 years suspended and a fine of $52,000. This explosion not only caused significant losses to the chemical plant, but also impacted the development of French society. On one hand, the explosion case prompted changes to France's insurance compensation laws. On the other hand, it led multiple major cities to order dangerous enterprises to relocate immediately. The tragedy of San Juanico, the most severe LPG disaster in history. This was a tragic accident that occurred in Mexico. At that time, the National Petroleum Company stored approximately 2.9 million gallons of liquefied propane and butane gas at their facility in San Juanico. A major explosion was triggered due to a failure in the oil storage facilities. Even though firefighters rushed to the scene as quickly as possible, they were powerless against the raging inferno. The fire consumed the entire factory and spread to engulf nearby towns as well. The entire city was shrouded in flames and thick black smoke. Due to the lack of evacuation time, there were significant casualties. 350,000 survivors were left homeless, and the affected area reached 9.5 million cubic feet. Chernobyl nuclear disaster. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster was the first catastrophic accident to be rated as a Level 7 event on the International Nuclear Event Scale. Even today, there are still cases of deformed babies born due to the effects of radioactive materials. The accident occurred at 1:23 in the early morning of April 26, 1986. People were sound asleep at the time, and no one could have imagined that reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant would explode. Subsequent consecutive explosions triggered a fire and released massive amounts of high-energy radioactive materials into the atmosphere. According to reports, the radiation dose released in this disaster was more than 400 times that of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima during World War II. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster not only contaminated the surrounding towns, but also spread radioactive dust irregularly through air currents, leading to severe restrictions on neighboring countries' territories and food supplies. It caused economic losses of approximately $6,810,000. Greenpeace, based on data from the Belarus National Academy of Sciences, found that over the past 20 years, the total number of victims of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster reached more than 90,000 people who could pass away at any time. Therefore, this accident is considered the most severe nuclear power accident in history. On November 29, 2014, drone footage captured aerial views of Chernobyl and the accident site. In the footage, the abandoned Chernobyl appeared as quiet as a ghost town, with the devastation of the accident still sending chills down people's spines. Piper Alpha disaster. A single mistake caused a fire that burned at sea for 7 full days, resulting in losses exceeding $3.4 billion. It's considered the most expensive mistake in the world. This was once the largest oil production drilling platform globally, capable of producing approximately 6 million barrels of crude oil daily, benefiting coastal countries including Britain, Norway, Denmark, and the Netherlands. According to reports, on the evening of July 6, 1988, technical personnel missed a safety valve during routine maintenance. This was a critical device used to prevent liquid petroleum from accumulating and causing hazards. Subsequently, another technician activated a pump with a removed safety valve, using it as a backup pump. Thus began the most devastating oil rig accident in history. Within 2 hours, 300 working platforms were engulfed in a sea of fire. Dense smoke and fierce flames challenged the rescue ships and helicopters that rushed to help. Left with no choice, rescue personnel had to risk jumping into the sea to save workers. Only after 7 days and 7 nights did the massive fire gradually extinguish. The platform collapsed, causing 6 surrounding platforms to cease production, resulting in a 12% reduction in production from Britain's North Sea oil fields. The Medupi power station explosion in South Africa. With a deafening boom, the power station that had been fully completed just 1 week earlier was instantly destroyed. $21 billion nearly went down the drain. Located in South Africa, the Medupi coal-fired power station, as the world's largest dry-cooled power station, had attracted global attention since construction began in 2007. After experiencing construction delays and equipment defects, it finally managed to become fully operational at the end of July 2021. According to reports, the 6 generating units cost more than $21 billion. During normal production, to prevent generator fires and explosions, an intermediate gas that neither burns nor supports combustion must be used to separate the hydrogen inside the generator from the air. According to local energy expert Eland, when following the correct procedures, the probability of an accident is extremely low. However, in early August, workers operated improperly, causing hydrogen and air, which should never meet, to come into contact. When approaching the critical point, they instantly exploded upon encountering an open flame. Unit 4 was immediately destroyed, and Unit 5 was also affected, tripping and shutting down. Fortunately, there were no casualties, but the losses to the Medupi coal-fired power station were immeasurable because the generators it used were specially built for this coal-fired power plant by American company GE. It is estimated that repairs will cost billions of dollars and may take many years to complete. The Halifax explosion. On December 6, 1917, the Halifax explosion was the most intense, tragic, and devastating explosion in human history before the advent of the atomic bomb. It nearly erased Halifax from the world map. Halifax was a very prosperous port city located in Canada. That morning, the port was busy as usual when a French munitions ship, the Mont Blanc, was slowly approaching. According to reports, during this wartime period, The munitions ship concealed the fact that it was carrying 11 million pounds of ammunition and explosives to avoid detection by enemy forces. No one anticipated that it would collide with a Belgian relief ship in the bay, immediately catching fire. Initially, people did not realize the severity and rushed to the dock to watch the spectacle. The next moment, the large quantity of ammunition and explosives on the French munitions ship was ignited by the fire, with power equivalent to 29,000 TNT. The rising smoke column shot up 6,000 feet into the sky. In an instant, a 2-square-mile area was leveled. Large sections of Halifax were destroyed, and even in small towns 60 miles away, many building windows were shattered. More than 2,000 people were instantly separated from their loved ones forever, and over 9,000 were injured. Due to the unprecedented damage and destruction caused by this accident, even 100 years later, the term Halifax explosion still remains deeply etched in people's memories. The surviving Halifax residents chose to be strong after their grief, spending a full 25 years to restore the city to its former prosperity. Today, on a small hill overlooking the port, there stands a memorial clock tower where people go to pay tribute every December 6th. After watching this video, which explosion accident left the deepest impression on you? Friends watching the screen, what other shocking explosion events do you know about? Welcome to leave your comments and discuss in the comment section. Today's sharing from Curious Compass ends here. Click subscribe to bring you more exciting content next time.